Howdy, Econolow H2Os, Roller Bros, and Teacup 4561s alike. I'm your guide, Q. Welcome back to some Tales from the Customer. We got a few stories here. A couple of them are really bad waiters, which I used to be a waiter, so I honestly love to see waiters not doing their jobs well, because I just find it particularly hilarious and frustrating, so let's get into the stories. Server was a jerk to me because I was eating alone. A couple of nights ago, I was getting off a night shift at my own hell restaurant and craving the hell out of some chicken wings. So I went to this place down the street. It's this sports tub pipe joint on a college campus. It was some night in the middle of the week, edited because I said a date that wasn't accurate, so it wasn't really busy. I asked the hostess if I could get a seat near an outlet, phone was low battery, and she took me to a four-top. The server comes over and asks if I'm waiting for anyone else. I said no, and his face immediately changes, and he's like, "Oh, okay," before taking my drink and app order. Now, I was the soul unlucky enough to have a table near the point of sales system. This dude either had no idea how to whisper, or just didn't care at all because I heard everything he was saying. He and another server were debating on whether or not I got stood up. He also said something along the lines of, "She better be a great tipper because I'm losing money having her at that four-top. And I could be serving a bigger party there and make better tips," stuff like that. It got worse from there. First, he brought me the wrong flavored wings. I politely told him, I get it, mistakes happen, and he huffed and made some snarky annoyed face before taking the wings back. When he dropped off my wings and drink, he plops them on the table and rushes off before I could even say anything. I had to call him a couple times so I could put in my entree. After receiving my entree, it had been so long since he came to my table that I had to ask another server to flag him down so that I could order dessert. The options on the dessert menu were different types of sundaes, but I just wanted the ice cream, so I asked if I would be able to get a couple scoops of vanilla ice cream. This dude snickers and is like, "Yeah, I guess we can do that." I watched almost 2 episodes of TV on my phone in the time that it took for him to come back to my table for the check. That's like 44 minutes if there were no commercials. I probably could have just flagged down another server again, but it's not their responsibility to check on my table, it's the other dudes. I usually tip like 25 to 30%, but I tipped 15% because the service wasn't that great. He goes to the POS and he's laughing with the same server from before and showing her my receipt and being like, "Wow, seriously? I can't believe that's my tip." I'm not usually I want to speak to the manager type person, but if it weren't late at night and if I weren't ready to go home and sleep, I probably would have gotten a manager. I liked the food there and everyone else seemed nice except for those 2 servers. Thank God for name tags, so next time I go, I can request not to be put in either of their sections. Alright, so there are many reasons that this shouldn't have gone down like this. You shouldn't treat people that are eating alone any worse than any normal customer. If anything, I like to give them a decent human experience since they're eating alone. Also, I always liked to view it as like a simpler table to wait on. If I was super busy, I could just have a table of 1, so I only have to deal with 1 person's needs as opposed to 4 people's needs, but this person seems to just not be able to handle their job whatsoever because everything took forever, and then complaining about the tip and everything. I really wish you had hit up their manager, or since you know their names, leave a negative Yelp review, because I remember my managers would always check the Yelp reviews, and if somebody's name was mentioned, man, they would definitely at least give that person a stern talking to. Thrown coffee and an arrest. I'm currently in a very large city for work, sitting in a mermaid coffee shop waiting for the okay from the police to leave. Standing in line, a guy at the register started throwing a fit because they didn't have some sandwich in stock. He was swearing and yelling. The manager was asking him to quiet down, and he would give him a gift card for the sandwich value, but that wasn't enough. One of the baristas handed him his coffee, and he threw it really hard, square at the manager's chest. It exploded everywhere, burned his neck and face, and even hit me. The guy screamed, "To hell with all of you in this poop-hole store," as he ran towards the door. I somewhat chased after him just to get his car make/model and plate info. It was a BMW X3 if anyone was curious. I went back into the store, and they had already called the cops. The manager had cold, wet towels on his neck, but it looks like it'll be a bit of a burn. The cops showed up and I gave them my statement and the vehicle information. They think they have the guy and will bring him by for us to confirm. Until then, I'm just enjoying my coffee and a little Reddit before I go back to my all-day meeting. Edit. The cop returned with the guy in the back of the cop car. 2 employees and I went out and confirmed it was the guy. The cop that picked him up said he was just 2 blocks over, parked in an alley appearing to hide. I'm now walking back to my hotel to change shirts, and then we'll return to work. Serious props to the manager and all of the employees for handling it so well. I've seen some mad customers, but nothing this bonkers. Dude, I hope this guy goes away for a long time, because that is a serious, like, assault with a deadly weapon. Scolding hot coffee? They could have, like, messed up this dude's face permanently. You probably messed up his chest permanently, but I mean, if it was, like, really, really hot coffee, that can mess somebody up pretty bad. Also, the worst escape plan of all time. Let me drive 2 blocks away and hide in an alleyway. Like, I would have been heading for the border if I were this dude. The only time I didn't leave a tip. This better be good, because you need a decent justification to leave 0 tip whatsoever. This experience still annoys me to this day, so I wanted to share. I've worked in customer service before, so I'm very understanding that stuff happens. Perhaps a particularly rough day, or things going on not within an employee's control. I get it. Because of this, I'll often leave a good tip for even mediocre service. I'm not picky. But several years ago at good old TGI Chili Bees, I had a waiter so bad I could not justify leaving any sort of tip. I was going out with my then BF, and we were celebrating our 2nd anniversary, and being 2 broke college students, TGI Chili Bees was practically fine dining for our budget. We were seated and everything seemed normal. Our waiter came over to get our drink orders and gave us time to look over the menu. But then he goes to collect the checkbook from another table that had already left, and he very loudly, profanely starts throwing a fit about how they didn't leave a tip, how he worked so hard for his table, these people are so crappy and ungrateful, etc. Strike 1. My BF and I exchanged a look, but we tried to ignore it and have a good time. The waiter then apparently had a few friends at a table nearby, because he sat down and started chatting with them for about 10 minutes. Eventually he brought our drinks, I got water, and then my BF had gotten a milkshake. Upon seeing it, I decided to splurge a little and get one for myself as well. The waiter said he'd bring that out in a bit and took our food order. About 30 minutes later he brought out the food, but still no milkshake. I reminded him about it and he said he'd go get it. 15 minutes later, I look over and see him chatting at the bar, and when he came back to check on us, he still didn't bring it. I didn't get the milkshake I'd ordered until after he brought the check. Strike 2. When he did bring out the food, I'd ordered some chicken and pasta dish or something, but the chicken was extremely overcooked and dry to the point of being nearly inedible, so I couldn't really eat it. By the time he came back to check on us, I told him the chicken was so dry, and he just looks at me and says, "So, what do you want me to do about it?" I ask if I could swap it with a cheaper pasta dish that had no chicken, and he just rolls his eyes and walks away. Strike 3. He brought the check and finally my milkshake that was very melted by now, and since I was paying for the whole dinner, I contemplated whether he deserved at least a little something. I'd never not gotten a tip before, and I know servers are often dependent on tips, but I just couldn't give this guy any extra money for his atrocious service throughout the night. So I just put a big X through the tip line and we left. As we got into the car, we see through the window as he picked up the checkbook and went on yet another tirade, receiving weird looks from the remaining customers. Clearly he didn't get the hint to not be such a drama queen when serving customers. You should never complain about getting a bad tip or no tip in front of the customers. It is such a bad look. Like, even if, this dude definitely didn't give good service to anybody at all, but let's say you did give good service, even then, you just go back to somewhere where people can't hear you and you yell about it to your fellow employees. They will understand you and it won't make you look bad. But damn, this dude just made so many, he's just not cut out for this industry whatsoever. Alright, I wanted to take this opportunity to tell a story of mine when I was a server. This is like, it could be a tale from retail or a tales from your server, but there's definitely a tale of a customer that had an absolutely horrendous experience having me as a waiter. It was like a holiday, and it was a very, very busy day, and all the crazy stuff was happening, and I was completely lost in the weeds. I was in over my head, I was absolutely dying, and this table comes in, it's like a wife, husband, their child, and like the wife gets a glass of wine, the husband gets a water, the kid gets something to drink, and like it takes me forever just to get their glass of wine. I'd say it was probably 10 minutes on the glass of wine, and then I'm just like completely chicken with my head cut off, running around, not knowing what to do. It probably took me another 15 minutes to get over to the table again, and they were like flagging me down, trying to get my attention. It turned out that the glass of wine had spilled on this woman's lap, crap, and they hadn't been able to, like, get any napkins or help regarding it for, like, 10 minutes, and they were like, can we just have our check and leave? And I was like, you guys didn't get anything but the glass of wine, so you can just go. I'm not gonna make you pay for a glass of wine that you spilled. And I was actually, in that moment, I was relieved that I just didn't have to deal with that table anymore, and I could just focus on everything else, because, oh man, I was just so busy, and I could not handle it whatsoever. I'm so glad that those people did not leave a negative Yelp review or talk to the manager, because I really deserved it. Hey, I'm gonna be at VidCon 2019 if you guys are interested. I think I'm going there Wednesday morning. I have to leave at like 4:30 in the morning to get to my flight. But yeah, it's gonna be dope. If you guys are interested in meeting up with me, just like hit me up on Twitter or try to find me at the convention center or something like that. I don't know, because it's cool to see people that are on the internet, because that's interesting stuff. So anyways, skate on the best of your abilities, guys. Make sure you're drinking more water. What is the just see you soon. Have an absolutely fantastic day. Is that what I say at the end of these videos? My brain is broken. This is going up at like 1 a.m. I'm terrible at this.